Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Sunday Night Live on this 19th day of March. And boy, the weeks and months are flying by. It's going to be Christmas before we know it. Yes, I said the dreaded C word in the middle of March. So I hope everybody is all right and has had a good week so far. Now that we've arrived at kind of the end of it and we're kind of about to start another working week, I hope everybody is good and has had a good week. Ronald Figueroa says, welcome to the Lipsham Dinner Club. Yes, it's kind of, yeah, it is like that at the moment. It is 11 p.m. here, so it'll be like this until next weekend. Next weekend, for UK viewers and Central Europe viewers, we will shift back an hour. We will go back to midnight UK time, 1 a.m. Central Time, because our clocks will change. And it will go back to being a 6-hour difference between the UK and the US Central Time area. So it will still be 6 p.m. Central for all of you guys in the United States. But for me here in Scotland, it will be an hour later than now. So instead of 11 p.m. starting, we'll go back to starting at midnight again until the clocks return back. And then we'll have this crazy little situation again. So we do this twice a year, effectively, when clocks go forward and when clocks go back. It's just the way it is in order for me to make sure that it is always 6 p.m. Central Time in that we start the show for you guys in the United States, whether that's Daylight Savings Time or Standard Time. I like to try and keep it to exactly 6 p.m. every which way. So the only people that move is me and my UK and Europe viewers. You guys will have to kind of, go to 11 and then back to midnight and then back to 11 and back to midnight. We'll do that twice a year. So just bear that in mind that anytime the clocks are going to change, that is what will happen, is that this show will move, but it will always be 6 p.m. Central Time. So that's the way we do things here. So for those of you that are new, that's the way it works. So for those of you that are new watching and you're in the UK or you're in Europe, that's the way it works. So anytime the clocks go back or forward, we move with it so that we can accommodate the United States folks, so that we make sure that it's always 6 p.m. Central for them. So in our case, I've moved it back to 11 for last week and this week to accommodate the fact that their clocks have changed. And then our clocks will change. We will go back to midnight here in the UK, 1 a.m. in Central Europe. And that's how it will work. And then, we'll have this same situation when clocks change again. So there you go. That's kind of informational, but it's important. It's important to get that out of the way so that everybody knows how this all works. All right. Let's see who is first in the door. It was Paul Morgan was the first in the door. Paul is not normally first in the door, so that is very cool. Welcome. And we've got Keith from Radio Talk Trumpet. We've got Kyle Tradusiak. We've got John Lake. And he says, Sunday night and no place to go. Well, I'm glad you're here, John. And we've got the W5 family here as well. We've got Kevin from Kevin's Guitar Stories. And we've got my dear friend Carl, a.k.a. Shorty Beard, is here as well. Ronald Figueroa is here. Tony Cardona is here. Dave at Bops NY is here as well. Saying good evening, hello, fellow rapscallions. And Dwayne is here as well, who is gonna lurk because he's having his dinner, which is fine. And he said he's gonna slam the like button because Johnny's shows are good and worth watching. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Dwayne. That is very cool. And please do follow suit, hit the like button. If you like what I do and you like what I'm about to do in this show, then that would be cool. And then we've got Kevin's request. He says, can you play a bit for us tonight? I may well do that. He says, I'd like to hear you improvise over a 145 minor blues in B minor. Yeah, B minor is a tricky key for piano and keyboards, but it can be done. Can be done. And who else we got? We got Don Oliver here as well. And we got Bobby Booth here. And we got Just Bob. And the whole family is here as well, which is awesome. And Just Bob says, just wondering, does anybody know if we really saved the daylight? That's a good question. Are we collectively Batman and we have saved the day? Who knows? Let's see. I think we've got that all covered. All right, so let's see. Ronald Figueroa's got a question, and he split this over a couple of posts. He says, Studio One question: I have multiple stem backing track. All the stems include a 6-beat quarter note count-in. The first 2 beats are an extremely loud cowbell. This causes clipping. Can I reduce the volumes of the cowbell on all backing tracks at the same time? There are always at least a dozen stems involved. Okay, so are you making a backing track for public performance that somebody can play along to, so the count-in is essential? If the count-in is essential, then yes, you can certainly basically cut the count-in section, and you can do that on all your events, all your stems, all your audio events. You can just cut that little section where you've got the 6-beat count-in, and then you can just select them all. You can range select, or you can shift click, whichever you prefer, and then you can just reduce the gain so that they don't clip anymore. Yeah, cowbells tend to be pretty loud for doing count-ins, which is why I prefer doing a hi-hat for a count-in, because it's less clunky. I don't really think I can think of any other word. It's less clunky, and it's also a little bit less loud, and so you can do a subtle count-in on the hi-hat. So maybe swap out for a hi-hat instead of the cowbell if you actually have control over that. If you don't have any control over that, then certainly just cut that little section from all of the stems by range select, and then cut, and then just reduce the gain of that particular part of the stem. And then if you want to put it back in, merge it back in, then just do a Control B. Select all events by Control A, and then just do Control B, and that will bounce all of those events back into one stem if you need to keep the count in the stem and then send them off to somebody else. I've got pretty much most eventuality covered in that little description of what you need to do. So I hope that helps. 'Tis a good question. How's the limb? It's getting better. I was out and about. I was at church today, which is quite a journey for me. Under normal circumstances, it's still quite a journey. I have to walk up to the main road, and then get a bus, and then quite a bit of walking once we get off the bus, usually is what we do. When I ride the bus, when my wife is working. When she's not working, we all go in the car, and it's much easier. But she was working today, so this is the first time I got out of the house in 2 weeks, and it's the furthest I've walked in 2 weeks. So needless to say, I am sore. I am very sore, and in quite a considerable amount of pain, but I'm okay. It was worth doing, and it bodes well for kind of the rest of getting better. But yeah, I'm still quite swollen, and I'm still very, very sore, and I will be going back to the doctors to get it reviewed, because I need to find a way to get the swelling to go down, and so far the medication that I'm taking is not really making the swelling go down. So that's something that we need to figure out. Alright, so the cowbell is what we call a shot across the bow. It's a wake-up call. Right, okay, gotcha. Understand that, Ron, for sure. Just Bob asks, what is false fingering when playing guitar? I've heard about it during the week. Didn't really find a good explanation. I'm thinking maybe like ghosted notes and drumming pads. False fingering, you actually get false fingering on a bunch of different instruments, and the result you get is usually the same result, regardless of the instrument. So you can do this on a clarinet, you can do this on a saxophone, you can do this on a trumpet, you can do this on guitar and bass. You can do this on most instruments. And basically what it is if you have a standard fingering for an A on a saxophone, there is also an alternative fingering that produces the same note. But here's the difference. It produces a different set of overtones from the standard A. And you can do this on the guitar as well. So you will find that you can finger the same pitch of A in several different parts, several different points on the guitar, and each one of those will generate the fundamental tone, plus also a different set of harmonic overtones. And it's those harmonic overtones that produce a different quality and a different characteristic. So if you switch between the two notes, the real and the false, repeatedly, then you get, or you can get, kind of a wah-wah effect without using a wah-wah pedal. And you hear this on saxophones in particular, where you can press down the keys for an A, for example, and then there's a bunch of lower keys that you also press down that produces a different type of A, but it's still an A, and then you switch between the two really rapidly. And you get a very, very cool effect by doing that. And you can do that on a bunch of different instruments, just by switching between the regular A and the false A rapidly. Then you can get a very, very cool effect, because the two notes have different tonal characteristics, and that's the difference between a real A and a false A. And there's other notes that you can use, that you can do this with as well. But A works really well, but there are other notes where it works as well. I'm not a guitar player, so don't ask me how to do it, because I don't know. I'm not a guitarist. There are guitar players here who will be able to tell you how to do that. But yeah, it's not the same thing as ghosted notes on a drum. Ghosted notes would be, I mean, you can do ghosted notes on any instrument again, where, for example, where you basically on a saxophone, for example, you play, let's say you play a series of 4 notes, and the first note you don't really articulate with your tongue. You just kind of let the air pass through the instrument for the first note, but then the second note you articulate strongly with your tongue, and then you do for the next one. So basically a ghosted note is a very, very soft note that's more felt than heard. So you can do this on most instruments. You can do it on saxophone, you can do it on clarinet, you can even do it on a piano. And it's all done by playing. So if I go, can you hear I'm playing the first one really quiet, and then the second one much louder. So if I was to put this into a kind of a blues context, you know, I could go. So there I was implying triplets, and you didn't hear the notes of the triplets, but you certainly felt them. So there's an example of, I used a lot of ghosted notes there. And ghosted notes are just really, really soft notes. They're not false notes. They're real notes, but they're just articulated very, very softly compared to something else. And the reason why you might do that is to increase the contrast between the note that is attacked and accented and the non-accented notes. And so it creates a very cool rhythmic effect, especially when you play them at speed. When you play those articulations at speed, it makes the melody kind of dance on top of the rhythm, which is what you want in most styles of music, not just in jazz, but you know, in pop music, in funk, in R&B. Those are all options that you can use to make a melody line really dance on top of the rhythm section. And you can do it with vocals as well. It's not limited to just instrumental music. This can be done with vocals as well. Another really good question. Tony says, my guitar is making staticky buzzing noise whenever I touch the faceplate, which is annoying. I learned that if you wiped the faceplate with some downy dryer sheets, it took this. Well, there you go. I did not know that. Well, there you go. I did not know. Just Bob says it was about Nuno Betancourt's new solo for Rise. It centered around playing the same chord in different positions, overlaid with a muted finger tap lead over them. Got it now. There you go. Yeah. So there's a very, very good playing example of false fingering. Yeah. So being able to voice the same chord, even with the same voicing at different parts of the guitar, and then being able to flip between them quickly it produces a very, very cool effect. There are some instruments where it's very, very easy to do, like saxophone. It's very, very easy to do because you can just use a cluster of the lower keys to create the false note that you're correctly fingering with the left hand, and then you can just like literally just do this and just mash those bottom keys, and it will create a percussive effect as well on a saxophone. So there you go. You actually got me thinking about my saxophone playing, which, by the way, I don't do very much. I don't play my saxophone very often, but when I do, I love doing it. All right, so I got a request from who was it? Who was the request? Kevin. He wanted me to play over a 145 in B minor. Well, you know what we can do? We can go another step further than that. We can actually go and make a new song where we do exactly that. We'll just create a little 12-bar blues backing track, and then I'll do a little bit of improv over the top of it. And this shows you how quickly you can get things recorded in Studio One. So I might use some loops to help me get this done real quick. So we'll go new song. I'm going to search for some appropriate loops. Let's see. Acoustic Drums Volume 2. Let's see, do I have anything more? Oh, I know where I've got some blues. I know where I've got some really nice bluesy drum loops. Over in the Files tab. Loop Loft Loops. Matt Chamberlain drums. Let's see, are they in here? Audio loops. Or actually, I could use Blues Drums Volume 2. Classic Shuffle. Go check some of these out. Let's try this one. Yeah, I like that one. I like that. Yeah, let's just speed this up a little bit. Perfect. And then what we'll do is we'll just duplicate this. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And then we'll just Control B those. Now, how do we end up with that? That's not what I wanted. And then what we'll do is we'll go D and D. And then that gives us a nice 12-bar drum groove. All right, now let's go find us some bassy kind of loops. Let's go see what we've got. Don't think we're going to get anything from there. How about we do bass. Let's see what we've got here. And then what I might do is just transpose a bunch of these around. Nope. Yeah, okay, we're not really finding anything there. That's okay. Well, we'll go make our own. It's fine. We'll go make our own, and we will use Rowdy, because this is pretty cool. And we can search for something a little bit bluesy here, maybe. See if we can find something a bit bluesy here. That's what this is like. Why are these not working? Why these common phrases don't work? I'm really surprised that these don't work. Maybe I'm doing something wrong here. But I thought these were supposed to work. I thought these were supposed to have a bunch of common phrases in them, but they don't seem to. Oh, maybe I need to have one of these selected first. No? Weird. Alright, well, we'll just put it on instrument, and we'll do it this way. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. I'm probably doing something wrong, and I don't have time to fiddle about with it, so... So if you guys are going, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. No, I'm not going to do it. And the reason why I'm not going to do it is because I don't have time to fiddle about with it. So, blues in B minor. So... And I'm not even recording. But that will do. That'll do just fine. There we go. That'll do. That's pretty good. And then what we'll do is we'll quantize these. I hate quantizing, but I need to tidy up that playing. So we'll go Control A, Q. Oops. Why is that note not played? I don't know. Oops. It didn't like that, did it? What the hell? What the hell is going on here? Why are these so far off? That's crazy. I thought I played that pretty close. Don't like how that ended up, though. Okay, that worked out pretty good in the end. Alrighty. Yeah, change the mode. Yeah, thanks for that. In the end, I didn't have time. I didn't have time, and I don't want to spend any time piddling about with such things, so... Where I can turn down the volume on this thing? Overall volume? Nope. That's okay. I can just do it from the mixer. There we go. Something like that. That will do nicely. There we go. Lovely. Now, you say Steely Blues? You wait till I'm finished, though. I'm not finished with that yet. Where's my FX chain? Here we go. Oh, hang on. I forgot to do something important there. And we're clipping a bit. Alright, so we've got our nice little vamp. And there you go. There you go. A little bit dark, maybe a little bit moody, but there you have it. A bit of blues in B minor. B minor is not my favorite key on the planet, mostly because it sucks for piano. As I kind of demonstrated there, it's not ideal for piano, but on a guitar it would work probably pretty well. It's harder though. D over B minor blues is second position, D harp, and I don't do that position often. There you go. And you're going to jam alone on your harmonica. Cool. All right, there you go. Steely Dan meets Desperate Dan. Scottish Dan. That's, yeah, Scottish Steely Dan. There you go. I quite like that. All right, so there you go. There is a little bit of a blues in B minor. Now, I could, if I really wanted to, just drop everything down into B flat minor. B flat minor would be a little bit easier to play on. So just for funsies, I might just do that, just because it is a thing that can be done. So I could just -1 that, and then we will also -1 that. Oh, -1. There we go. So now everything should be in B flat minor. There you go. So as you can see, it's a little bit easier in B flat minor on a piano than it is in B minor, but still, lots of fun can be had. And this just goes to show how important it is to be able to, to know your blues scale, your melodic minor scale, and your Dorian mode as well, because Dorian is great for minor blues. So really important to know those three scales in particular in every key. So if you're going to do minor blues quite a bit, then learn them in several different keys, and actually learn them in keys that are not normal or not commonplace. So learn how to play a blues in E flat minor, A flat minor, D flat minor, all those kind of weird keys that guitar bands just never ever play in. The reason being, if you learn those scales and you get some fluency in those scales, you can use those as passing scales between one chord and another in a more usual key. So if you're doing an E minor blues, for example, you can use an F Dorian scale to get you from the E to the A, or you can use the B flat melodic minor scale to get you from the E minor to the A minor. And it just creates a little bit of extra tension, a little bit of extra spice. You don't use it too much. Don't overdo it, because if you overdo it, it'll just sound wrong. It'll just sound weird. So you kind of want to use it judiciously, and only where it's really called for. But certainly, being able to play pentatonic patterns, minor pentatonic patterns in all 12 major and minor keys is going to be beneficial because you can link them by chain and you can go up in half steps until you get to where you want to go. Or you can go in develop a sequence up in minor thirds or up in major thirds. So you've got like E minor pentatonic, G minor pentatonic, B flat minor pentatonic, and then you can land on your A minor pentatonic when you're on chord 4 in E minor, for example. And those are kind of things that they sound really hip, they sound really cool, and they sound a little bit dissonant, and they sound there's lots of tension in them, but you unload that tension as soon as you get to the chord 4. And it just brings an extra level of spice to your playing that otherwise wouldn't be there. And you're not really playing anything complex. You're just playing one pentatonic pattern that you're transposing. And on a guitar, transposing is effortless. You just move things a certain amount of frets and move your hand position, and it works. Not quite so easy on something like a piano, which is kind of laid out very, very logically. But it certainly can be done. So that's the importance of learning those kind of scales. All right. Kevin was pleased with that. Good. I'm glad. Just Bob says, very reminiscent of some of the jazz that my dad listened to on Reel to Reel. There you go. Yeah. It's kind of... now, I could have just, made it really simple and just played... Why do that when you can make the harmony a little bit more interesting by using this minor 11th chord and then using the Dorian mode and using this same kind of sound and just moving it up, because those notes are all from that scale. Just made for a little bit more of an interesting thing, and then change it up. And it just made the keyboard part just a little bit more interesting to listen to than just something that was a little bit plain Jane, just a minor 7 chord. So there you go. I hope you like that. All right, any other questions, guys? Because we've got just about 10 minutes left. But yeah, that was fun to do. So thanks for your suggestion there, Kevin. I liked it. And certainly, I don't mind playing it in B minor or B flat minor. It's just a little easier in B flat minor on piano than it is on a guitar. Guitar is an interesting instrument because it is a concert pitch instrument. It is essentially a transposing instrument because you write up an octave for it. But other than that, it's a concert pitch instrument. It's in the same key as the key of the song. It doesn't transpose like a tenor saxophone does or a baritone saxophone or anything like that. However, it is uniquely built because of the tuning of the strings. It's uniquely built so that it's very playable in sharp keys in particular, like E, A, D, and G. For example, those are what we'd call sharp keys because the key signatures of those keys have sharps in their key signature, which means, for example, the key of G, every F needs to be an F sharp in the key of G. In the key of D, every F and C sharp every F and C needs to be a C sharp. And then, and so on and so forth, F, C, and G have to be sharp in the key of A, and so on and so forth, in order for the major scale to work. That's why you have key signatures like that. But that's another subject for another show, like Songwriting Simplified, for example, on Wednesday. So Wednesday night is Songwriting Simplified night. We'll be back here for that, and maybe we can discuss key signatures and that kind of thing, and how they are made up and how they work, and common key signatures, not so common key signatures, and of course the murky world of theoretical key signatures. They are theoretically possible, but nobody ever uses them because they are just very, very convoluted and not really worth bothering about. So we can maybe discuss that over on Songwriting Simplified on Wednesday. That would be a good topic for discussion. So if you guys have got any questions for that, for composing, arranging, songwriting, music theory, get those questions to me either via email. You can go to the website at the bottom of the screen there, and if you scroll down to the bottom of the page or hit Contact Us, there's a contact form you can fill out there. If you fill out that contact and say and put the subject as Songwriting Simplified question, send me your question, and I'd be happy to take your email questions, and we'll start the show with those, as well as a little bit of a discussion on key signatures. So we can do that for sure. Or you can just put them in the chat like you do for this show. So it will be Wednesday, probably for UK and Europe. It's probably going to be the same kind of time, 11 p.m. because I think our clocks don't go back until the last our clocks don't change rather until the last weekend of March. So we got a little bit of time. So, kind of next week will be a little bit different. So it will be the 11 o'clock time for UK and Central Europe time, and 6 p.m. Central for United States. Let's see. Reverted Flack, trying times. Yeah, that's a really sophisticated 12 bar blues. You're quite correct. Tony says, what is the name of the keyboard above your main keyboard? Jonny says it's named Frank. I like that. I might just use that going forward. This is the now very, very ancient Yamaha QS300. It was brand spanking new in 1994. And this was one of the first units to come into the UK. I had this sent directly to me by Yamaha way back in the 1990s. Because I basically, we call it here in Scotland, I tried my arm. Basically to see if, just on the off chance, they might just, let me test one and write up an article for them. And they actually said yes. I was really surprised because I have never been endorsed by them. I'm not a music journalist or anything, but they let me have one, and they let me write an article for it, which I sent to them, and I don't know what they did with it, but I think they used it in some way, shape, or form to publicize the instrument. I don't know what they did, but yeah, I was really surprised because I was like a 19-year-old music student, and otherwise an unknown quantity, really, an unknown musician, but I said, hey, this looks like a really, really great product, and I think it would be of benefit to music students. So I wrote my article from that perspective, and it still works. The only thing that doesn't work is the disk drive, and of course you can't get discs for it anymore. But everything else works just fine, and I use it as a controller now, so it doesn't go out on the road like it used to. And then underneath here, we've got the Clavier Nord Stage 88, the Revision B. It's the original Stage 88 from 2006 when Nord first launched the Clavier Stage piano. And this is what they did. And now, of course, I think they just recently launched the Stage 5, which is freaking amazing. I've seen one of those. But it is another £2,500 to get one of those. This was £2,600 when I got it, and as you saw, it still works absolutely beautifully. It sounds gorgeous. I've updated the library on it maybe twice, and I've updated the operating system maybe twice as well. But it works absolutely flawlessly, and I have no problems with this instrument at all. And as long as it works, I will continue to use it as my main piano. And the same with the Yamaha up here. For as long as this continues to power on and continues to work, I will continue to use it as a MIDI controller until it dies. And when it dies, I will replace it with something new that I can use. But there we go. We've got 5 minutes left, so I will take another question and then we'll call it a night. I don't know if Mike is here. I have not seen him in the chat, unfortunately. Mike Johnson, are you here? I don't see you here, so maybe you're not here. Because otherwise I was going to say, hey, you know, let's do an after show Zoom, but it doesn't look like anybody that would normally do an after show Zoom is here, so I doubt there will be one. Unfortunately. But hey, there we go. Oh, he is here. He is here. Mike, you were just hiding, weren't you? You were just lurking. That's fine. Let's see, what else do we have here? Just Bob says, hence why guitar is supposedly one of the hardest instruments to learn. At least that's what I've always heard. Well, I suppose in some respects it's hard to learn, but it's also easy to learn because you know, you can take a particular shape on the fretboard and you can move it around very easily. And so you can, by that, you can take a complex chord like a 13th chord and you can just shove it up and down the fingerboard, the fretboard rather, and you can play a 13th chord on any position you want. Providing you've got sufficient wrist strength to be able to do bar chords, it'll work for you. You can just move that sucker. Whereas on piano, you know, there's B flat 13. You know, it's... You can kind of do it. There is kind of a shape, but you're having to move that shape very slightly in order to be able to move it around. I may Zoom a bit later, or I can launch it and let you co-host until I join. Yeah, we can do that too. We can do that too. And Shorty Beard says I can host if needed too. There we go. I think we have a solution. And I think with that, we will end the show because that was a good question. Although it wasn't really a question, it was more of a statement, and I kind of expanded upon it. All right, so we will end the show with a little bit of that minor blues vamp, and we will call it a night there. So if you want to join us over on the after show Zoom, you are more than welcome to do that. The link is in the chat. Come and join us, even if you've never been amongst us before. It's always good fun, and you know, we can talk more about these kind of questions that have been raised tonight, if you would like. All right, folks, I will bid you otherwise a very good night. Good night. Good night, everybody.